welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us for this segment, we have John Phillips, co-founder of Predictit, the stock market of politics. We're going to discuss the National Defense Authorization Act, or NDAA. It's an annual defense policy bill that typically passes Congress with broad bipartisan support, but has been slowed down in Senate by a handful of controversial policy issues. John, it's great to see you as always. Welcome back to Trade Talks.
Good to be back, Jill.
All right. And what does this bill include, and why does it matter so much?
Well, I mean, on two different levels. First of all, it's $700+ billion in defense authorization. And that's a lot of money. But this is not about the money for that. The money's there. If the senators want to vote for it, that what really this is about are these controversial amendments, as you said, which are attachments to the bill. Some people may not think they're that controversial. If you're on the receiving end of some of these sanctions, you would. So, for instance, there's a amendment to the bill that would make it that would impose sanctions on the company that is making the state-owned company, really, in Russia, that is making the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, the gas pipeline from Russia into Germany. There's another sanction in the bill that has to do with the Uyghurs, and where it bans the purchase of any or the import in the United States of any goods made in the region of China that is designated, and where there's plenty of evidence there's oppression going on by the Chinese government against the minority Uyghur population. So these amendments have been added to the bill, and that's what's making it controversial. Now, it's expected to pass. The question is it going to pass with 75 or fewer votes, which is what Predictit traders are saying at 34 cents, or more comfortably at 84 or 85 votes out of 100, which is priced at 23 cents. That indicates there might be a compromise in the work. This bill is going to pass.
Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of how it's compromised. Well, let's turn to Georgia. It seems to be all of our governor elections tend to be more interesting as time goes on. And of course, last week, Democrat Stacey Abrams decided that she was up for a second run for the governor's mansion, setting up a potential rematch with Governor Brian Kemp. This week, former Republican Senator David Perdue is making his own bid for governor that could set up for a blockbuster primary against Kemp. So, John, tell us why this is significant. This sounds like it could potentially be one of the more interesting gubernatorial races that we've looked to Predictit traders for.
Oh, yeah. You got the whole three-ring circus here. Trump is involved. He endorsed Perdue. He doesn't like Kemp because he blames Kemp. At least he says he blames Kemp for his electoral loss in Georgia. So he came in for Perdue. Perdue acknowledges he was persuaded to run by Trump for this seat. But what's really interesting is it really flipped the script in the Republican primary market for governor of Georgia, because Perdue's contract rose as high as 68 cents, closed at 62. But look what happened to Kemp. Poor Kemp is down 13 cents to close at 36 cents, which is, all-time market low. And then, of course, the Democrats, they increased 3 cents, but it's going to be a big race.
It really is interesting to see just how much Trump's name really puts fuel behind some of these candidates, and it could almost be a head scratcher here because, John, it's not even like we're addressing policy. It's almost like a beauty pageant, which is kind of ironic considering he used to own Miss Universe, but like we haven't really spoken about policy, right? It's more of whose name's attached to who.
Well, often it's exactly on target, but the machinations inside a Republican primary contest, or a Democratic primary contest for that matter, are always hard to decipher and baffling to people who look at it from the outside. I mean, you think about the maneuvering that Chuck Schumer in New York, the senior senator, presumably in a safe seat, is going to prevent AOC and others from running against him. Nobody wants a primary challenge, and someone like Trump is very popular in the Republican Party.
Yeah, it's just so interesting, John. I mean, since we've been meeting with you over the past 18 months, to pull those layers back and see how it works behind the scenes is very interesting to cover. But we thank you for joining us as always. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq.
Thanks, Jill.